Bhagavad Gita for Children by Sudha Gupta. Contents: Birth of Krishna. About 5,000 years ago, Mathura, a small town in the present state of Uttar Pradesh, India, was under the rule of a tyrannical king named Kamsa. Kamsa was so cruel that he imprisoned his father, Ugrasena, and declared himself the king of Mathura. Ugrasena was a kind and just ruler. Kamsa was just the opposite. It was a tough time for the people of Mathura to put up with Kamsa's extravagance and unfair rule. Above all this, he was constantly on war with the other rulers of the Yadu dynasty. It had hampered the peace of Mathura. Kamsa loved his cousin Devaki very much. He decided to marry his sister with Vasudeva. Vasudeva was a Yadu king, and Kamsa had in his mind that his frequent wars with the Yadu dynasty would come to an end. Mathura was decorated beautifully and wore a festive look. Everyone was happy and in festive spirits. Kamsa, cunning as he was, thought, "Now I will have my hold on the kingdom of Vasudeva and rule the Yadus as per my own free will." After the wedding, Kamsa decided to drive the royal couple home himself to shower on them a kingly courtesy as was very common in those days. As soon as Kamsa took the reins of the wedding chariot in his hands, a divine voice thundered from the sky. "Kamsa, you fool! You don't know what ill fate is going to fall on you. By giving Devaki's hand to Vasudeva, you have signed your own death sentence. The 8th son of Devaki will kill you." Hearing this, Kamsa froze with fear. He was very upset and furious. He immediately decided to kill Devaki at the spot. He thought, "If I kill Devaki, no child can be born out of her." Thinking, so he drew out his sword and raised it to behead his cousin. Vasudeva was horrified at this cruelty and fell on his knees. "Oh, Kamsa," he pleaded, "please do not kill your sister. I shall personally surrender to you all the children she gives birth to, so that the voice of the oracle does not come true." Hearing this, the evil king did not kill Devaki. He said, "Then you will live in my palace as prisoners." Vasudeva had no choice but to accept his decision. Kamsa laughed out loudly and spoke, "Now I'll see how the 8th son of Devaki will kill me. I'll kill him as soon as he is born." He was content at the thought that the situation was under his control. He was decided by Kamsa. Devaki and her husband Vasudeva were confined in the palace dungeon and kept under constant vigilance. Every time Devaki gave birth to a child in the dungeon, Kamsa killed the child. In this manner he killed 7 children born to Devaki. He turned a deaf ear to all the heart-rending cries on his sister. "Oh, brother, please spare the life of my children. They will never harm you, I promise," pleaded Devaki, sobbing. But in vain. Each time Kamsa killed the child mercilessly. 9 years passed before Devaki got pregnant for the 8th time. Kamsa, troubled by the fear of his possible death, lost his appetite and slept poorly at night. "I won't be at peace till the child is born," he thought all the time. In the palace dungeon, Vasudeva was trying his best to console his wife, but she was terrified. "My 8th child will be born in a day," she spoke, crying bitterly, "and my cruel and merciless, inhuman brother will kill this one too. Oh, mighty Lord, please save my child." The night soon ended, and it was dawn. Devaki spent most of the day in tears. The day again ended, and the dusk gave way to a terrible night, as had not been seen earlier in Mathura. It seemed that the whole world understood Devaki's pain and joined her in the mourning for the unborn child. The wind howled angrily, and the sky seemed to have split apart to pour endless rains. Suddenly there was an eerie silence, and then it was broken by the sound of the cry of the divine child. It was the voice of the 8th child, a son born to Devaki at midnight. As soon as the child was born, the prison was filled with a dazzling, blinding light. Devaki fainted at the sight, and Vasudeva was mesmerized. The light converged into a spear, and the same voice of the oracle that scared Kamsa now spoke to Vasudeva. "Take this child across river Yamuna to Gokul. There Nanda's wife, Yashoda, has just given birth to a daughter. Exchange your son for the girl child and return to the prison immediately, before anyone comes to know about the birth of the child." Hurriedly, without a word, Vasudeva picked up his newborn son, following the divine advice. He felt very sad, as he had to separate the newborn child from his mother. But he knew that there was no other way to save his son. Vasudeva felt very doubtful about how he would get out of the prison. I noticed there were 100 soldiers on guard outside, and it was a dark, fearsome night. But what he saw astonished him greatly. All his problems were resolved one by one. As he approached the prison gate carrying the baby in a basket on his head, the doors opened on their own. Vasudeva come out slowly to find, to his utter surprise, that all the guards were sleeping. It was raining heavily when Vasudeva left for Gokul. He soon approached the banks of river Yamuna. The river seemed to seething with anger due to the fierce winds and rain. It looked alive and ready to devour anyone to set foot in it. Vasudeva was full of fear. He was hesitating of stepping into the river, as if the river had sensed his fear. The turbulence subsided at once. Then a miracle happened. As soon as Vasudeva's feet touched the river, the flow became normal and Yamuna made way for the Lord. To his amazement, Vasudeva saw a huge black snake raising its head from the waters behind him. Vasudeva was very scared, but soon realized that it meant no harm when he saw the serpent positioning its hood like an umbrella to save the newborn baby from rain. The snake was none other than Sheshnag, the snake god, who is known to be the roofing canopy of Lord Vishnu. And the newborn baby was the 8th incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Vasudeva did not delay any further and proceeded in waist-deep water, and finally he was able to cross the river and reach the opposite bank safely. From there he reached Gokul. It was past midnight, and the people of Gokul were fast asleep. Vasudeva had no trouble in entering Nanda's house because the doors were open. Vasudeva by this time had realized that his child was really someone special. He was a divine child. All his fears vanished, for he understood that when he could come this far, he would surely be able to complete the rest of his journey. Treading softly, Vasudeva entered Yashoda's chamber. She was sleeping peacefully in her bed, and her baby girl beside her awake. Staring at the door, it was almost as if she was expecting him to come. Vasudeva scooped Yashoda's baby girl in his other arm and placed his son in the empty place next to Yashoda. With tears in his eyes, Vasudeva kissed his son's forehead. "Goodbye, my son," he whispered. Then, without looking back, he left Gokul with Nanda's daughter in his arms. Like before, Sheshnag protected the child from the heavy rains, and Vasudeva returned to the prison with the baby girl. He entered his dark cell and laid the baby by Devaki's side. As soon as the child felt the hard floor on her back, she cried loudly. The guards suddenly woke from their sleep and became aware that a baby was born. They rushed to Kamsa to give him the news. The 8th baby child, slayer of Kamsa, had taken birth. The evil king was both pleased and afraid to hear the news. He was pleased that he would finally kill the 8th child of his sister, but he was also afraid that he might not be able to do so. Keeping aside all his fears, Kamsa rushed to the palace dungeon to execute the child who was said to be his slayer. He reached the dungeon in great anger. The palace guards trembled on seeing him. Kamsa entered the cell where his sister and his husband had been living for the past 9 years. "Where is he?" he roared at Devaki, who was weak from childbirth. "Where is my slayer? Where is he?" thundered Kamsa. Devaki had regained her consciousness only after Vasudeva had exchanged the babies. So Devaki thought that her 8th child was a daughter. She appealed to her brother. "Oh, Kamsa, my brother, my 8th child is a girl, and not the son that the oracle warned you about. How can she harm you?" Please let your niece live." Kamsa, as always, ignored her cries. He loved his life more than anything else in the world. He snatched the baby girl from Devaki's arms and hurried the child against the prison wall. But this second, the baby did not die. Instead, she flew up and for a second remained suspended in the air, to the utter amazement of everyone present there. The prison was filled once again with a blinding light. Kamsa covered his face to shield himself. As the light subsided, they realized that the child had changed into a goddess. "Who are you, and why are you here?" shouted Kamsa. The eight-armed form of the divine goddess was dressed in shining garments and dazzling jewels. She looked in contempt and pity at the bewildered Kamsa. She said, "Oh, foolish Kamsa, there is no force on heaven or earth that can kill me. So how can you, oh wretched creature? Your slave is already born. He is now well and alive in a safe place, and one day he will come and kill you." Saying so, she disappeared, leaving behind a terror-stricken Kamsa. "What is happening? Now what shall I do to save myself?" wondered a shocked Kamsa at the turn of events. Vasudeva then narrated what had happened that night to his wife. "Your son is a divine being. He is the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. So do not lament, O Devaki." Devaki thought sad at the separation from her son, who was happy for the baby. Both of them prayed to God that their son should not fall into the clutches of his evil uncle Kamsa. Meanwhile, there was great rejoicing in Gokul. The cowherds and Gokul were happy beyond measure. A new baby boy was born to their beloved Nanda. The baby was named Krishna. Everyone in Nanda's family was very happy. People of Gokul flocked to Nanda's house to see the divine baby boy and to offer gifts. Everyone noticed that the child was no ordinary one. His skin had a bluish hue and his eyes twinkled merrily. He did not cry and always had a smile for everyone. Yasho felt very proud of her newborn son, who emitted so much divinity. In this way was born Lord Krishna, the supreme God, who is the creator of everyone. He was born to save everyone from terrible tyrants like Kamsa. The end. The next chapter is Krishna and Putana.